Hello everyone. As I record this, the weather outside is a little bit frightful. It's grey, it's wet, it's a little bit, that wintry, miserable kind of feeling, the kind of day that you want to stay inside. And it reminds me of last weekend when Carl and I flew out of Nelson to Auckland. It was a very similar day, very wet and grey and cloudy. And what I noticed was that there was such a difference to being on the ground underneath the clouds as opposed to being above the cloud in the plane, because the sun was shining so brightly above the clouds. The sky was so blue. The clouds themselves were more that white, fluffy, happy kind of clouds. And it felt different. And I was just so struck that that can be our lives sometimes when we face clouds, face storms, face difficulties, and that's all we see, and we're surrounded by it, we're bogged down by it. We can forget that the sun is still shining, and by sun I mean S-O-N, King Jesus, still ruling and reigning above the clouds of our lives. And the clouds are different for all of us. It might be fear or anxiety, it might be stresses, fatigue, it might be relational difficulties, insecurities, whatever the cloud is. There is still a sun shining above it. There is still King Jesus shining above every difficulty that we face. And I want to just emphasize that by reading Isaiah, a few verses in chapter 40. It's a scripture that I go to so often. And it talks about God enthroned above the circle of the earth. God stretching out the heavens like a canopy, spreading them out like a tent. God, we can't compare him to anything. Look at the heavens. Who made all of these? Who are you going to compare him to? He calls out the starry hosts one by one. He names them as he brings them out. This is our mighty God, King Jesus, who sits above the clouds, and he is trustworthy. It says later on that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. So I just want to remind you of that picture today, that even though it might be a little bit wet and miserable and cloudy outside, the sun is still shining above the clouds. And even if it is a little bit cloudy and stormy in your own life, the sun, King Jesus, still rules and reigns above everything. Look to him, hope in him. May your strength be renewed today. Bless you heaps.